policy measures.
Caleb, stay with me because we have Associate Professor of Finance at Andrews University in the United States, Professor William Kwesi Peprah, joining us via Zoom. Prof, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, I'm certain that you followed the address delivered by the President this afternoon, from morning all through this afternoon. But the conversation starts and rests at our public debt, because most of the decisions that we take will fall within that. It says that we have reduced it, or we fell by 82.1 billion. Let's start the bigger conversation from there. What's your view?
Good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to your viewers. So if you ask me on the debt, I think that some factors has really worked for us in that angle. The first one I'm going to talk about is when the government intentionally worked on the exchange rate. So most of the debts that we were owing in foreign currencies, because the cedi strengthened, those debt repayment became very cheaper. So that is one major factor. And the second factor is that we could also see from 2005 that the government intentionally decided to make sure that the revenues that they are generating, they were going to go by the IMF plan and to be able to pay off some of the loans when they are due. So you notice that, as the president said, even one of the facilities that were due, they were able to mobilize enough resources to pay it even before the due date. And this points to the fact that there is this fiscal discipline with revenue mobilization and resource allocation. And that is what we've seen that help us to be able to pay off our debts. And the third one, the third one I may also talk about the debt is that we've also seen that our public debt, even though the government is borrowing through the treasury bills, the short-term market, what the net of between what they borrow and what they repay is not increasing. So that is one other factor that has caused our public debt also to see a reduction. So these three factors are key and intentional. And from what I've seen and what I'm reading, is what the government has done to ensure that our debt has come up to that reduction of that 81 billion Ghana cedis. Okay,
Prof, help me here. So you mentioned fiscal discipline. One thing also has my attention. You say that revenue mobilization. How do I reconcile the discontinuation of some tax revenues that they discontinued in mobilizing the revenue that you have just mentioned? How are they mobilizing these revenues beyond spending quite well, as they have said?
So I think we know that they took out the e-levy, which was a major. The previous government's major tax revenue, but we noticed that it couldn't generate that revenue that really needed. There is something we have in economics, we call it the lava curve. There is a point when you introduce taxes, it becomes disincentive. People will stop paying. So with the e-levy, that was how it was seen. It became a disincentive, and the government took it off. And we also noticed the VAT, which was tax on tax, was also worked on. But you will see that once you're able to remove taxes that makes it disincentive to pay your taxes, people will become now willing to pay the existing taxes in terms of being compliant. So the revenue that we have received, which really helped us in revenue mobilization, is basically on compliance. The existing taxes that we have, we noticed that the government and its strategy between the GRA have ensured compliance. One key element is the introduction of AI at customs points. When the exchange rate dropped, people started importing items coming in, even though the payment on duties have reduced. But when you see the volume increasing, then it means that your revenue, your tax revenue is going to go up. So these are some of the things that has really worked also for the government in terms of removing those tax, those that they call nuisance tax.
Okay.
But the real benefit is that I'm sure the government was aware that taking out or removing those taxes means that they were going to lose some revenue. So they needed to be more disciplined on their expenditure. So, the minority says that the government is not spending. Meaning that the way they live their life when they were in government, they expect this government to live the same way, but they are not seeing it that way. That's why they are complaining. But from the speech from the president, we noticed that, yes, indeed, some expenditures have been going on. I'm not speaking for the government, I'm just looking at the numbers. So the president reported that arrears has been being paid.
Yeah.
So a lot of arrears has been paid. And when you pay those arrears, it means that you are spending. So it's a key factor of expenditure. However, it is intentional and disciplined expenditure. The government is putting money at where it thinks that it is going to have an impact on the economy. So I'm going to explain two main things. In terms of output, you will see that when we say output on quantitative numbers, a lot of money has been spent, but they have been spent at the right places.
Okay.
And they have been able to bring some form of stability. One of the key areas the president talked about is on the energy level. We know the doomsday problem, where the government now says that he has paid all arrears to energy, some of the energy major two partners, and planning to pay the rest. It brings that kind of confidence, and that's why we've seen the energy being stabilized. So, if you ask me, these are some of the disciplined financial measures I've seen the government come out with. Though I have my other reservations.
I can't wait to get to the reservations, because then I'll take it from you what you expected to hear in today's State of the Nation's address that you didn't see, or if you did, fell short of a few things. So
the president was very clear with when he was able to mention a little bit about unemployment, employment, and refer to the 1 million Ghana statistical figure.
Yeah.
However, we are sitting on a time bomb on unemployment in Ghana. So in both economics and finance, the three major things a country seeks to solve, if you ensure economic stability, like we have seen, if you ensure monetary stability, like we have seen, and it does not trickle down to creating employment, it means that you have solved two problems, but your main problem, what you are put in government to do, is to make sure that your citizens are able to work. And this is where I think that I was not able to hear much on the employment, though the government said they were going to, I think he pointed to some of the existing youth employment programs and those things. But we want to see permanent jobs, not the short-term jobs, the national service jobs he talked about and the rest. We want to see how we translate these gains into full-time jobs. That should be the crux and the key of the whole thing. When Ghanaians are able to get work to do, then we can say that, yes, things are working well. Well, maybe the president says that we should get ready, we are now going to fly. So probably he's pointing to the point of, if I want to see that we are flying, then it means that a lot of the youth we have there are now getting employment. At least it's good. We have 1 million. But remember, the 1 million is just less than 1% of the entire youth population who have graduated from the university and they don't have any work to do. So the focus should be on that side. That is what I wanted to hear, the more on employment strategies.
But it beats me though, Prof, that most governments, one of the things that they struggle with is employment. If it's not employment, it will be underemployment. What is it? Is it the module they use to want to cure that problem that is not potent enough? Or it's just we don't know how to create jobs for young people? What's really the challenge?
So the governments normally come with policies. So your policy must be a policy that will trickle down to even individuals who have the initiative to create their own employment, not relying on formal employment. So that kind of mindset and that kind of policy is what probably we want to see from government if they say we are taking off. Is their policy going to ensure that yes, indeed, when I finish school, I'm not going to rely on seeking government of other formal employment, but can I be able to be in a position to be my own entrepreneur?
Yeah.
And there is a policy set for me to be able to do that. This is what I want to see. I'm going to say something which I think, as we see that in interest rate is dropping, central bank must also be cautious to see that new loans are given to startups. So central bank must come out with another strategy and say, we want to give all the banks some room to be able to venture into areas that are a little bit more riskier for the youth to be able to take the loans. And then they create a fund and say, yes, if any bank is able to give loans to startups of people within 5,000 Ghana cedis, 10,000 Ghana cedi limit, and they are not able to pay, the government will be able to cover up. So these programs are all something that I want to see the central bank and the government coming up with that policy. Then it will give the confidence that when I graduate from the university or maybe from high school or from whatever level, and I want to start a new venture, I want to start something, I can walk to the bank once now we have identification, and with my small program, I go and meet the bank and say, yes, this is what I want to do. And the bank will not say, you are not too risky, your project you want to do is not it's not bankable, so they are not going to give. Then they can tap into the government program to create that kind of employment and give that kind of money to help the youth to be able to focus on. Well, so employment is very, very key.
Prof, stay with me. Just stay with me a little longer. I'm taking our viewers to Parliament where the minority is addressing the media. Well, we'll take you back to Parliament when we're able to get some connections back there to hear the minority leader, Alexander Penyomarkin, address the country, especially post the president's address in Parliament. I still have Prof with me, but Prof, stay with me. And when I come to you, one of the questions I will be asking you and seeking some answers to is that, yes, they are quite happy about the inflation. People are quite happy about the inflation, but at what point will it get to that it will be a problem, realistically? I'll come to you for that. But in the meantime, let's engage Dr. Victor Doke. He is a security analyst. Doc, if you followed the address, which part of it addressed security concerns largely for you? Unfortunately, we've lost him, but we'll reconnect with him when we're able to. And when as well gain connection back to Parliament, I'll take you to that minority press that they're briefing now when I get that. But Prof, so we see that inflation has reduced significantly. My understanding of it is that the rate at which prices of goods and services would be increased will be slow-paced. But at what point will inflation drop so much that it will be a problem?
So this is a very important question. If you paid attention to the Ghana Statistical Service data, they themselves reported that some regions have already started experiencing deflation. Deflation, meaning prices have gone into reverse. What it means is that it's going to get to a point in time, even whatever cost they use in producing, when they sell their product, they are not going to get even their cost back. So this is where we must watch. It is pointing to the fact that there is a lot of regional imbalances between our economy and which must be addressed. And I know the president, that's why I listened to him carefully. He was trying to make sure that each region gets something going to be able to bring back the economy. So deflation is something that we must watch. And indeed, if you have a deflation, it may even lead to affecting your GDP growth numbers. And this is where it's going to be very, very critical. In the US, where I am, they try to make sure inflation is always around 2% because you need a little bit of inflation within. In Ghana, we have set our inflation target between 8 plus or minus 2%. And our current inflation rate is 3.5%, meaning based on our own targets, we have started seeing a problem. We have slowed down more than you are supposed to slow down. So if it's like driving, you have to drive within a speed limit. So our speed limit in our inflation is 8 plus minus 2%. So we've gone below that threshold and getting to 3% threshold. Even though it is good, but its inherent effect is that we have slowed down too much. Okay. So the effect is that if you don't take care, it's going to happen and have an impact on our investment. I'm going to give you some scenarios. So now it's not even very, there's no incentive too much to invest in treasury bills, too much to do those kind of short-term securities, because the returns you are going to get on it is less than 6%, 8%, less than the target that we have set for ourselves. So people who have invested, hoping that they will get some form of returns to live on it, will now ask themselves, the government has caused inflation to go down, interest rates to go too down, so they will start complaining. So they may have to find an alternative to invest their money. And this is where I'll come back to the employment. Then if the other alternative is to invest in real sector jobs, creating jobs, so that if I know I'm going to give it to government and treasury bill and get around 6%, I have a straight cost to be able to get a higher return if I can start a new business where I can get about 15% returns. So this is the effect. So the dangers are still there for us going so low at that 3-point-something% in inflation. But the main one, the real effect will come in with the regions that have started reporting deflation.
Okay.
Deflation, which is something the government must watch.
Prof, in 2022, investors pulled out, the CD crashed, Eurobond market closed to us. And they say that our external shocks were quite weak. Currently, we're doing an import cover of 5.7. The government is seeking to want to take it to a little
15,
above,
15,
yes, a little
15,
above.
15 months.
15 months, and then we're wondering at what cost? What's the feasibility? What are we going to be losing now to be able to have this import cover of 15 months?
So, well, I gave an interview and I said, yes, this is ambitious and it's not impossible. But it comes with a cost. So the opportunity cost of you having your money to invest in real sector, however, you want to tie your money down and use it for a later date. So this cost is really, really going to affect us in that decision. So the first one, monies that could have been used to propel development, to support expansion and creation, we are going to use that one to buy gold or whatever the government wants to do, and we are going to tie it down for 15 years. So you ask yourself, when we keep that money down for the next 15 months, as they are planning, will we get the returns that will be greater than if we have used the money today? So the opportunity cost analysis must be done. This government policy may have an impact of about 0.1 to 2% on our GDP if the government goes on that plan. So this cost, I'm sure the policy may have probably done their analysis and say, yes, we want to secure the future, but ask yourself, could it be a position to use the money now in some real sector to be able to generate that? So government wants to try to find a balance. And 15 months is their target. To me, it's too ambitious.
But they're seeking to use gold. They're seeking to use gold. Is that not good enough?
So ask yourself, the gold they want to use, government is going to give money to Gold Board to buy the gold and sell. And when the money comes, when the repayment comes, they keep that money at the central bank. So everything is about your money. It's the money, it's the same commodity money. So ask yourself, that money you are giving to Gold Board to buy the gold today, is there something that you could have used to do now? And that is why we are foregoing that opportunity. So government, if they think that, yes, they have created the real sector jobs, they think everything is okay, they want to secure us for the future, so they want to tie our money down for 15 months. That is the 15 months is more than 1 year of import cover.
Is
this something that we need to focus on? So that's why I say it's so ambitious.
Well, what would the ideal situation look like for you? How many months?
So this situation should have been roughly your 10 months, between 12 months and 10 months. That additional 3 months you are adding on is something that you could have put in the economy to create real sector jobs.
Okay.
And let's be clear. For all the pandemics that we have seen affecting economies, these have not affected economics for more than a year. Mostly it happens within 6 months. We will see IMF and World Bank coming in with some support to support economies. So you covering yourself for that 15 months, it means that you are anticipating a higher or something significantly happening in the near future, which must be looked at.
Did you see the 24-hour economy as a good buffer, at least?
I mean, well, every economy running 24 hours is a good buffer and a good policy to ensure that, yes, we get jobs. Indeed, if it will really work, I want to see, and I want to quote the young girl, one job being done by 3 people. That is what I am envisaging, that, yes, this really happens in Ghana. And when we're able to do that, yes, a lot of real jobs will be created to support the economy. The biggest challenge, as I'm repeating myself in all the conversations,
electricity tariffs have increased astronomically.
The problem is how government will create real jobs. They have done well solving 2 problems.
Well, Prof, I'm sure that you can hear the noise in the background. Please stay with me. Let me take our viewers back to Parliament. The minority is still addressing the